Okay, so while we wait for the next episode to come out from William Kettle, they'll come out as we have time to make them. You have to deal with me as a host. Now I jumped into something a little more appropriate, because today we're going to look at where to get all this stuff and all these trinkets. So follow me back in time to last year and let's go to the medieval festival. Now back when I was little, my parents used to take me and my little brother to the local Viking market or medieval market. And for us two boys that was really awesome. With all this cool armor and weaponry, yeah, it was just something else seeing all this and seeing lance tournaments and sword fights and hear bards sings, or in this case more drunken Vikings sing. It's really something else than just seeing it on a television screen or getting inspired from a computer game or something. And of course there was all these good stuff and things. Now later when I started LARPing, I remember looking at the older players and thinking, wow, these guys have some awesome costumes. Someday I want that too. So over the years I started looking at what I could gather from these different type of markets. And there's a lot of different things to gather and a lot of inspiration to be had, depending on what type of market it is, people there, etc, etc. Talking about inspiration, I know what I'm building next time. Too ambitious? Now I can't tell you what to buy at these places. Mainly because I don't know what you're looking for, and secondly I'm often very tempted to buy everything myself, so in that case I might not be the best guy to ask, but then again I do have some advice for you. What I have experienced is the best or most common thing that's worth looking for, and that in general speaking it's often small details, very complex things, specialized things that you can't make yourself or might have a hard time making yourself. Something that you can add to your character's costume. And these small things sort of helps the character become its own and add an extra depth to the character, to your character, and make it more believable and creates life, so to speak, to your character through the costume. So in that case I wouldn't say it's the most important thing, but it's definitely an important thing when it comes down to making a believable character, not only believable for other people but also believable for yourself. Now let's look into what you should look for in these markets. One of the most common things people look for when they go to a medieval market or fair, for simple sake I'm going to call them markets because we call them markets here. I know some places you call them fairs. I'm going to call them markets. When you go to these markets, one of the most common things people look for is actually armor. Because armor is not that easy to come by. I know you can order it from online, you can also try to make it yourself, but it often needs a bit adjusting, and if you're ordering it online, you often you're not entirely sure that you might be able to fit the damn thing. Now I'm not an armor person, so I can't really go into details about armor. What I can go into details about is the thing that I look for the most when I'm at a market, and that's the guy who sells shoes. Shoes is kind of hard to come by. They're usually the thing that people add as the last thing to their costume, but it's also one of the things that really completes the picture. So, but that being said, they are kind of expensive. which is why I often like to go out and buy them at places like medieval markets, because you can haggle. Now the shoes I have myself here, I was lucky enough to have my girlfriend next to me, which is really good at haggling, so I got them pretty cheap. Well, I would say I got them pretty cheap. That being said, you shouldn't be afraid of ordering online. The reason I am a little afraid is because of my size of my feet. I really like to try my shoes on and feel them, because I want them to look good, and I also want them to feel good, be comfortable. That's also why I don't try to make them myself, because I'm that's kind of a bigger project, and I'm not really that comfortable of making my own shoes. Other small complex things to look for is like could be instruments and toys. Now they could be really instruments could be a really good thing to add to your character if you're a bard, mainly because you're doing with music and singing, but also for a normal character, because believe it or not, you might actually get bored at a LARP, and when you get bored, your character would naturally have something to occupy the time with. So that either be something to scribe on, or play with like a small board game, or play of cards, or a little music instrument, which you can often find at these markets. Now I don't know how much time I have used this, my Gearhunting, just sitting in the corner of the inn and playing, and just setting an atmosphere. Not only for myself, but an atmosphere for all the players and players outside of the inn that can hear that. There's nothing else like music to help with this. And a Gearhunting sort of works like the cowboys' harmonica. Now one of the more easy things to find is jewelry and cape buckles. Now jewelry, when it comes to jewelry, I usually say don't bring anything to a LARP that you don't want to get lost or broken. So when it comes to jewelry, I really wouldn't recommend you take anything like that to a LARP. It's really up to you, but just keep it in mind. What I usually do is go out and look at the jewelry and get inspired by the design. Maybe you find some type of awesome Celtic design of, I don't know what it's called, an armband, and then go home and get inspired to make your own jewelry, or bring it into some other things that you're making and bring it in that way around. When it comes to cape bottles, however, they're they're not that expensive, and you can often find them at most of medieval markets. I wouldn't even dare to say all medieval markets. It's sort of like a must thing, and especially in LARPs, they look great. They're not that hard to find at these markets, and they held your cape in place. The only bad thing is that you probably can't find them many places outside of these markets, because let's face it, normal people don't wear capes. Besides shoes, the thing I look most for when I go to a medieval market is often flasks, or its content in the form of meat, wine and ale, but mainly the flask. Now because you can get some awesome flasks and some really cool looking ones that you could use if you're playing an alchemist or a wizard. Now the thing is, you could go out and buy these separately, but I prefer buying them with content, basically because you get two things in one. Now you might be thinking, well, I don't drink, or I'm not old enough to drink. Don't worry, they make for great presents for parents. Just make sure that you agree with them that you want the flask afterwards, otherwise it might end up holding flowers in the corner or something. Now one of the more common things to look for when you're going to a medieval market is eating and drinking gear, in the form of horns and clay cups and stuff like that. Personally, I prefer using horns just because they don't break that easily. Clay cups are fine, but as long as I can't wear them in my costume, fearing that if a guy hits me it will break, I'm not that comfortable wearing it or having it with me. Besides the good atmosphere and everything else that is at medieval markets, they can be quite expensive. You can only haggle so much in the price. I mean, so sometimes it's a good thing to look for alternatives like thrift stores or secondhand markets or recycle centers, and maybe getting a little creative and going into some compromises on the things that you are looking for. For instance, here's a really good example from a guy over Tumblr who posted this picture of a feasting kit he put together. I think his name is anyway, I posted it, I reblocked it, so you can go over to my Tumblr and find it, and go to his Tumblr. I can't pronounce the name. Anyway, it's a really cool feasting kit. It doesn't break the illusion, and I know the bowls in it are kind of really cheap to buy. I mean, I used them myself, and it works. Things I have found at secondhand markets, like my big horn up here, would have cost maybe doubled if I were to find it at a medieval market. At a secondhand market, it's much cheaper, and I don't feel that bad on using it the way I do. The only bad thing is that it has been used by other people before, but as long as you can get over that, you can still get some pretty good deals. The only real thing you need to look for is that the things that you buy need to be sturdy enough for you to be able to use it for what you're going to use it for. Now, that's all. You of course also need to look for that when you're buying something at a medieval market, but it's usually not an issue since things there are made to be used. Now here at the end, say hello to me of the usual places, or if you're not going to any of these places, then let's talk next time. In the meantime, have a nice time. What the heck?